when you don't do the repair work and you have unresolved conflict, that's going to pile up. You're going to be quick to react to things, triggered more easily, less patient, and it causes damage to your marriage because you do not trust him to listen to you, to work together as a team. All the thoughts and feelings that are unresolved, they stay with you. You're assuming he doesn't care about what you have to say, how you feel, what you want. These criticisms become your outlook on your husband. But when you do repair, your marriage gets to grow from that. You give your relationship an opportunity to do better. Trust gets built up, and you have less things stopping you from wanting to connect. So your relationship feels more fun. It feels like you two are a team. Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about what to do after a fight that you have with your spouse. So whether you have healthy communication tools or not, let's say that you didn't behave or communicate in a way that yields a healthy, respectful, compassionate, productive conversation, and you didn't get anywhere. The conversation has gone cold. You guys are tired of fighting. No resolution. And now you've got that awkward tension going on where you know you're hurt, you know you're pissed, your husband's probably over it too, and there's this weird vibe going on between you two, but you've got kids running around, and so you still gotta make do. You still gotta do life, take care of the things, and interact logistically. And everyone can tell. Everyone can feel it, that there's something off between you two. And you want nothing more than to go back to normal, but also to feel heard, to feel like you guys work together to fix it. So what do? Your pride might be getting in the way. And you're like, well, I'm not going to say something first because he should come to me. He's the one in the wrong. And so today we're going to talk about what to do, aka how to do the repair work, so that you don't feel like you just wasted your precious time getting absolutely nowhere with your spouse. Okay. Now, I've had my fair share of fights with my husband, with previous partners. And before I learned how to communicate effectively, before I learned how to navigate conflict with more tact, with more grace, with more respect, it was ugly. Okay. It was really ugly. And what usually causes this awkwardness and this difficulty and challenging nature of navigating arguments is our pride. It's our pride. And yes, it's normal to fight. It's normal to have conflict in your relationship. But what truly separates couples who make it, and I don't mean make it as in like they are married for years and years and years. What I mean by make it is that they're happy. They are happy throughout the life of their marriage. And these little moments, these instances of conflict are just little blips. It's not like this huge tragedy in their marriage. And so today we're going to break down why it's so important to do repair work and what steps you can take to reconnect after a fight so that you can minimize the time that you feel disconnected and increase and strengthen the partnership that you have with your spouse. Okay, so why is repair so important? The thing is if you don't do repair work, that's how resentment builds. It's like, the concept of sweeping things under the rug. It's cool once or twice. No one will notice, right? But then after a while, if you continue to do that, even something as small and minuscule as dust, it will start to create a bump under the rug where it's like unmistakable. Like you can see it. It is so obvious. And when you don't do the repair work and you have unresolved conflict, that's going to pile up. It's going to pile up in the way that you're going to be quick to react to things. You're going to be triggered way more easily. You're going to be less patient. And it causes so much damage to your marriage because now trust is breaking down because you do not trust in your ability with your spouse to work through things together, for him to listen to you, for you to feel heard, for your ability to work together as a team, right? That's what happens when you don't do repair work because all the assumptions and the thoughts and the feelings that are coming up throughout the conflict and the thoughts and feelings that you have about leaving the conflict going unresolved, they don't have anywhere to go. They stay with you. So then your whole marriage soon becomes a big ball of assumptions entangled with each other. You're assuming he doesn't care. You're assuming he doesn't care about what you have to say, how you feel, what you want. He doesn't listen. All these criticisms start to become your truth. They become your outlook on your husband, on your marriage. But when you do repair properly, your marriage gets to grow from that. You get to share all your assumptions, all your thoughts and your feelings, and you talk it through. And as you're hearing him out and he's hearing you out, you are adding in the actual truth so that you can decide, where do we go from here? Are my assumptions actually warranted, or is it just because I'm upset? And when you do the repair work, you give your relationship an opportunity to do better. You give each other feedback and you decide to do better. And you get to grow stronger from that. The trust gets built up, the partnership gets built up, and then you have less and less things stopping you from wanting to connect. So then life feels lighter. Your relationship feels more fun. It feels like you two are a team. And it doesn't feel like you two are at odds with each other, constantly fighting, constantly disagreeing, and you grow from it together. That is the most important part. And that doesn't get to happen unless repair work happens. So let's talk about the common mistakes that I'm noticing that couples are making after a fight. They're ignoring it and moving on. They're kind of just allowing time to heal wounds, which doesn't always work. I'll say more often than not, it doesn't, especially when you're able to resolve things through healthy communication and you're choosing not to. Then you're leaving yourselves to be in that situation where you're both testing the water, walking on eggshells, making sure we're cool, and then pretending nothing happened. Another thing I see is you're forcing the other person to apologize. So instead of processing what's going on and going back to talk things out, you're rushing to fix it without truly understanding yourself, without truly understanding your partner, and you just want it to be over. Just apologize and everything will be fine. But apologizing doesn't always fix things. It's change behavior. It's reflections. It's taking responsibility and accountability for how you contributed to the situation. And it goes both ways, right? So the act of receiving an apology, while you might think that's the answer, you're still likely to feel dissatisfied with the outcome of the situation. Another thing is keeping score. This is huge. When I say keeping score, this means you're bringing up the past instead of talking about what is actually going on right now. So it's like you've been filing away different examples so that when the time is right, you get to just ambush him with all of these examples of how he screwed up, how he isn't meeting your expectations, how he's not being a great partner. And that is not fair. That's really a distraction. Harboring those feelings only creates more disconnect and it only creates more distrust because then it's like, oh, I didn't realize that you were keeping score. I didn't realize that you were building up ammunition to use against me. That doesn't breed partnership. And then the last thing that I often see is not acknowledging feelings. This is so big. And no, this doesn't just happen with men to women. This also happens from the woman to the man. What I mean by that is minimizing each other's feelings instead of validating them. And it happens when you don't agree or you can't understand how someone could possibly feel that way. I'm sure you've experienced that where you're like desperately trying to get him to understand how you feel, but he just isn't getting it. And so he's like, okay. And he's making you feel like you're overreacting. It doesn't feel good to not have your feelings acknowledged. And the mistake that people make is that they assume that they have to fully understand. And if they don't understand, then those feelings are not worthy of being validated. But you know what? That's not true. Think about your kids. If you have young kids, you know that a lot of times their feelings don't make any sense to us at all. And yet, it is so important to acknowledge their feelings. That is the quickest way to help our kids move on, is to acknowledge how they feel, to let them know that what they're feeling is valid and that they get to feel those feelings. Does that mean you're saying you're right? No, it doesn't mean that we're saying that we agree with our partner. It's not saying that we think they're right and we're wrong. We're simply saying that we acknowledge that they're having this experience and that this is their perspective. And that's okay. I think a lot of conflict is just honoring our individual experiences and not making it wrong because it's not the same as ours. So here are ways that you can do the work to start repairing after a fight. First of all, you're going to hear me say this a lot. It is the first letter of my communication method, which is called the peace method. And that is to pause. Giving yourself time to allow the wave of emotions to settle down and allowing yourself to think more clearly before trying to fix things is going to serve you and your marriage so well. This is coming from someone who was highly reactive, highly emotional, and I was under the assumption of if something's wrong with my relationship, I need to talk about it right away. Because I came from a model of, hey, if there's a problem, you don't talk about it. You don't talk about it, you give the silent treatment. And so the opposite of that is talking about things, but talking about things only works if the timing is right. If you haven't given yourself proper time to process how you feel, why you feel that way, and dig deep into what's causing these feelings and what it is that you are wanting out of this situation, you have no business bringing it up because this is where unprocessed feelings turn into escalated conflict, which means arguing, fighting, whatever you want to call it. That's where you get the he said, she said stuff, the back and forth, the feeling that both of you are not listening to each other. Neither of you feel heard, where the past comes up, criticisms come out, right? The uglier sides of us come out because we are angry, we are frustrated, we are resentful, and our triggers are coming out to play. But that doesn't happen when we give ourselves time to pause. When we give ourselves time to pause, we're a lot more calm, patient, compassionate, respectful, kind, loving, understanding. But when we don't, you can think of it as when emotions are high, patience is low, your compassion is low. Your willingness to understand and listen is low. So you as a participant in the conversation are not prepared. So pausing doesn't mean that you don't care. Pausing is actually an act of love. Like, hey, I am not ready to engage in this, and I want to be at my best. And when I am ready, I want to be able to be a great partner throughout this. I want to listen. I want to understand. I want to have the ability to validate and acknowledge your feelings. And I want to be able to share what my experiences are without blaming you, without criticizing you, without getting all prideful. So, stepping away, as long as you're communicating why you're doing it and what you're doing, is so healthy. The next step is to reflect on what happened. Ask yourself those questions that I just shared. What was I feeling? What triggered me? What is going on? Is it my past that's coming up? Is it an unmet need that I've been feeling but haven't communicated? Where can you take responsibility for your part? Because it does take two. Even if you feel like you are the more mature communicator, you still in some way contributed to the conversation becoming an argument. Even if you didn't start it, it is still your choice to engage in it. It is still your choice to continue it. And so if your conversation turns into an argument, there is something that you can take responsibility for. The next step is to make sure that you are approaching the conversation with curiosity, with openness. If you have taken time to process and everything that you want to say starts with you and pointing out all the things that he did wrong, you are not ready. Go back to the drawing board, okay? You are ready if you can phrase things using I statements or questions in a way that doesn't have any passive aggressive tones to it. Genuine curiosity. Like, hey, can we talk about what happened? Not those like trick questions where it's like you're trying to trap him into admitting that he was wrong. Or those phrases that we use to accuse him, but we're ending it as a question. That's not a true question. Okay? We want to ask things that are genuinely wondering about their perspective, about their experience, and about what was all going on so that you can get more information and formulate your thoughts and feelings with him factored in. So if you're going to say, you were wrong, I can't believe you did this, well, I wouldn't have felt this way if you didn't do this, go back. Go back to step 2 and reflect on what happened. Okay? And of course, validate, right? Validate each other's feelings. Seek to understand before being understood. This is like a really big thing. A lot of times when we approach conversations that are tougher, we are desperately trying to feel heard. And so we're trying to push our point. We're trying to push our views. And until they hear us, we do not want to hear what they have to say. But a successful conversation is actually one that uses the opposite approach, where we're like, okay, we've done the processing, we understand our side, and now it's time to let them know that we're here to listen to them. Because a lot of times, once they share what their experiences were, and we are hearing what's coming out of their mouth instead of just our own assumptions about the situation and what they did and what they didn't do and what they meant and so on, that can already change what we need to say. That might even stop some things that we feel like we need to bring up because, oh, I didn't realize that. I misunderstood the situation. And then it creates an environment of open conversation where you're keeping the conflict a conversation. It doesn't have to escalate. It's all about sharing, right? I'm sharing my side, you're sharing your side, and let's acknowledge each other's feelings and talk about what's next. Like truly approaching it as a team, which leads to the next one. Apologizing. This is a big one. That one that isn't always the easiest thing to do, especially when you are full of pride. And this is why it's so important to pause first, because if you're still angry, your pride is not going to make it easy for you to apologize. That will be the last thing you want to do, right? So making sure you are allowing your emotions to really settle so that you are ready to apologize for whatever it is that you need to apologize for. Taking ownership of how you reacted, maybe taking ownership of not communicating earlier what your needs were, and maybe getting upset with them when they had zero clue that this is what you even wanted. Apologizing for maybe not even listening to them as much as they deserved to be listened to, or any actions that you took, behaviors of yours that you weren't proud of, really acknowledging the impact that your actions had on them. There is always something that you can apologize for, truly. And I want you to avoid saying sorry in a way that is dismissive. Just like how we can phrase things as a question, but really it's accusatory and condescending or critical. There's also those empty apologies that aren't actually apologies, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not it. You are not acknowledging how you impacted them. Even if it was non-intentional, it's still good to acknowledge, like, oh shit, I impacted you negatively, and I'm so sorry for that. And then next, after all that happens, when we come with open-hearted honesty and willingness to understand, willingness to listen, willingness to take accountability for our impact on our partner, this is where we get to reconnect, right? This is where we find closure in conflict and reconnect and move forward. Not sweep things under the rug and pretend everything's hunky-dory, but actually resolve it and then reconnect. You can do this by hugging, holding hands, laughing at how much of a hot mess that was, but you made it through. You can high five each other. Like, that's my husband and I, we usually hug and we high five each other for navigating conflict better. We always recognize when we are evolving as communicators. And so we high five because it is truly an achievement, because it is not easy, right? It's not easy to look yourself in the mirror and be like, ugh, I didn't do that well, right? Or, oh gosh, I really messed that one up. And then, of course, debriefing. I have a whole episode on that, by the way. So if you haven't checked that out and you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say debriefing, go check out episode 181. It's all about how debriefing is so powerful and impactful for your marriage when you have arguments, because that's what's going to allow you to grow from it. Because the way I see it is, conflict should never be wasted. Conflict is an opportunity for you to learn about each other, about yourselves, and how you two can communicate better going forward. So in theory and in practice, you should in general be fighting better each time. Not fighting better as in, oh, I'm going to win faster, but fighting better as in keeping conflict as a conversation, de-escalating sooner, maybe taking longer to escalate, and then recognizing when it's time to de-escalate, and then coming together to fix things and reconnecting and getting back to being a married couple who loves each other, enjoys time together, and is doing life together and having fun doing it. Okay? And then, of course, once you resolve it, let it go. When you have an action plan on what to do going forward and things to consider next time, let it go. Do not file it away again, only to bring it back up in the future. That is not helpful, and it will only build distrust. Deal with it if it comes up again. Just agree on what you're going to do going forward, support each other through this changed action, and then move on. Live your lives. So, just to recap, repairing, super important, and will help your marriage grow closer and be able to withstand all of life's challenges that you will face. And the 5 steps to repairing: pause, reflect on what happened, be curious and open, apologize and acknowledge, reconnect, and move forward. Okay? You got this. This is such important work, and your marriage will forever change because of it. So practice this. Let me know how it goes. If you need help, I got you. Reach out to me. And if you know someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, share it with them. And if you've been loving the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I would so appreciate your support. That is how more people like you can get the support that they need from this podcast. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.